Hello everybody and welcome to another one of Kevin Creative's. Check out my custom Revel Porsche 928 model kit. And as you can see, this is very different from what I normally do. It's a car. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a car guy. I don't know much about cars. I'm going to say some stuff that's probably not going to line up with what it actually is. I'm just using all my own bare basic thoughts to describe things. I know steering wheel. I know dashboard. I know there's seats. I know that there's an interior, there's the outer shell, there's the undercarriage with all the metallic bits and all that, wheels, we got those, headlights, taillights, bumpers, that's kind of it. Engine, you know, I got the basics. If it's a very basic little bit of car information, I might have that, but don't expect much. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just going to call things as basic as they come, and hopefully you can just piece together what I'm talking about. So, to start things off, you can see that the color scheme is a tad specific, isn't it? There's a couple of things going on here with this color scheme I can't help but recognize. Where have I seen that before? And if you look closely, zoom on in, and you'll see it. There's a strange logo. Is that a smudge? What is that? There's something there on the stripe. It looks purple. Yes, no, your eyes don't deceive you. That really is a Decepticon logo. So, I've mentioned this before, but my first true love when it comes to toys and cartoons and everything in general, Transformers. I love the Transformers, and not just me, but lots of people all over love Transformers, and this was actually originally going to be a gift for somebody who was a big fan. I have since decided not to give it to them because I don't like them anymore. No, none of that. It's nothing on them. I'm gonna have to own up to it. Alright, everybody, I'm taking accountability. I'm just gonna say it like it is to the American people. I would like to apologize. I did a terrible job on this model kit. It looks awful. There's nothing that can be excused from it. I did a bad job, and I just really don't want to give it to them anymore because they're going to see what a terrible job I did, and I just don't want that to be the impression. I don't want them to be like, wow, this was nice of them. I mean, they did a pretty good job for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. That's not what I want the impression to be. So that is why I decided not to give it to them. I'll go over who it's for at the end, but for now, yeah, just know that this was a gift. I was trying something out. This was the first time I was ever doing a car, so that was the first time I was ever doing a Revel model kit, so there's a lot of new factors going on. I probably should have gotten something else to test with first, but my hubris got the better of me. I just thought, oh no, of course, the great Kevin Creative can tackle any project. He will be able to take this car and make it majestic. And that was not the case. I learned very quickly that practice makes perfect. I should have definitely tried some stuff out first, but we just jumped into it, and now we learned. This is how we do it. If I were to redo this model kit, I really feel like I could do pretty much a perfect job. Maybe not perfect, but I learned a lot from my mistakes. If I were to do this again, I really think I could crush it, but we'll just see how things go in the future, because the thing is, I looked online, and I got this model kit, I think at like 35 bucks. I didn't really pay much for it. I got kind of lucky. Now I'm seeing it just go for like 80 to 90 to 100 bucks. So probably gonna have to pass unless they make like another version of this model, because the thing is, this is based off of the Transformer Decepticon Dead End. Yes, the Stunticon. It fuses to create Menasor. That's right, the evil Menasor, the Road King. So I googled what car Dead End was supposed to be. I guess the consensus was he was a Porsche 928. So I just googled model car Porsche 928. There you go, found that Revel did it, bought theirs, and yeah, it looks pretty accurate. I have to say, when I look at pictures for references, this looks like that car, especially with the paint job on it. It looks pretty solid. Now let's just get into it. Let's just say it. I already admitted that I messed up. I made some mistakes. The faults are all mine. But yes, this model kit looks pretty terrible up close and personal. You put it up on the shelf, and it's not bad. I feel like we've got a nice presentation on the shelf, but once you start getting a little too close, you're gonna see that old Kevy didn't know what he was doing. So one thing to point out is this model kit was, I think, made in like the 70s. I think I remember looking at the box, it said like 1978 or something like that. And it shows. Let me tell you, man, I feel spoiled now with all the Gundam model kits. I didn't realize how good of a job Bandai really does. After picking up some kits from other companies, I just realized that, yeah, Bandai is doing it right, and I don't know why they're not the standard. They're already doing it. Just copy paste and make it happen. I don't know, what are we doing here? But like I said, this was made in, I think, the 70s, so we'll kind of, give them a little bit of a pass, but at the same time, the concept of taking a peg and plugging into a hole, I feel like that's been around for For a very long time now in human history, I don't think this was the first time we ever figured this out. Just take something, plug it into the other thing. I don't know why this kit requires pretty much 100% glue to put it together. I mean, you have to use super glue, which is fair, I get that. But why do you gotta use super glue on pretty much everything? Why was there no clips? Why was there no pegs? Why was there no, nothing? The biggest issue here was the front and back bumper. If those just had peg holes to plug in, we wouldn't have had any of these major egregious mistakes that happened. But because I had to just glue those into place, I feel like, first of all, they weren't molded quite properly. It felt like I was struggling to get them to sit into the places they needed to be in, so the glue was just not adhering and I had to keep reapplying it, and it was just making a mess. And yeah, so it was just becoming an issue there. Like, you can really see it on the corners of stuff like that. There's just some glue spilling over and just ruining the finish and the paint job, which is a real big shame. Another factor was every now and then getting a little bit of glue on my finger and then touching something else, and then there you go. There's no fixing that. I mean, unless you want to redo the entire thing, there's just absolutely no fixing that. That was very sad. I was sad to make any of these mistakes, but they're there and we're just gonna have to live with them. So I painted the headlights and the taillights just to give it a little bit of life into them, because they were just pretty bare with just being blank plastic. So some of them I applied silver to the back sides, and then on some other parts I applied fluorescent red and orange just to give it that lively, like they're on type feel. And I think they came out great. The paint job itself on everything looks amazing. The problem was, I then took the glue to put on the back of that to stick on the spot, and the glue ate away at the paint. So that really just messed up the paint job on the right headlight. It just looks super foggy and messed up, and it just drives me crazy. I don't know why that had to happen, but that's one of the issues with glue is it's very potent and it can eat away at your paint, so that's a problem. Gotta be careful there. That being said, the paint job for the undercarriage, all the engine parts and everything like that, came out pretty nice. I did try to do a little two-tone action. I just kind of looked at pictures and saw that everything was basically one color. It's not like they're using gold and silver and platinum and bronze and all that. They're trying to keep everything just basically what I'm assuming it's made out of steel or something, or aluminum, whatever it is. So it's all basically one color. So there wasn't any really need to get anything too fancy going on. So there's a couple of parts where I figured, all right, I just painted up in a slightly lighter color than the rest. You can't really tell. It kind of all just blends together. It's not that big a deal. Whatever. It looks like car colored, like steel parts. We're just gonna be happy with that. The rims I'm very happy with though. They came out pretty nice. It looks very realistic. I'll give it that. Not much of a chrome finish to it. I didn't want it to come off too chromy, but it does look like metal. So at the very least, with all of the mistakes I made with the glue on this kit, it still looks like a real car, which I do like. I do appreciate the fact that I did a solid enough job to where you look at this and it feels like if you expanded it 100 times, you could get inside and drive it. So that's pretty cool. Another little issue I had was with the side view mirror. I glued that in place first, so that way I could just paint it all as one piece. But then as I was trying to get everything together, it just kept falling out every time I bumped into it. So I had to keep gluing it back into place, which was just ruining the finish around it, because it's just like, again, why wasn't that just a peg that plugged into the side? Instead of making it a peg, they made it the most microscopic, tiniest little triangular shape to plug into another microscopic, tiny, triangular looking hole. Yeah, I don't know, what circular peg into circular hole. I'm gonna say it again and again. Why do that? Just keep doing that. It works every time. It is what it is. It's staying on now. It's fine. It's just annoying that a little bit of the finish kind of got ruined there because it just kept falling off. Lame. For the inside of the car, I could have added a little bit more colors and details to it, but I didn't want to get too crazy. I feel like it looks fine on its own. I just made the steering wheel black, and then I made the gear shifter black with a little bit of silver as well. And there you go, a little bit of uniformity. Kind of wish maybe I should have done a dark brown instead of the black, just because I made everything else like a tan color, which that looks great. I don't think there's any issues here with the black on tan, but I still think that maybe dark red, dark brown probably would have been a little bit better for those parts, but not the biggest deal. So I think for that, I just used light brown for the base coat for the interior of the car, and then I just highlighted everything with a tan color, and it looks beautiful. I have to say, it looks like the inside of a car. Like my mom had a champagne gold like Honda Accord growing up, and the inside of it was just this kind of brownish tan. tan color, and that's kind of what I was thinking of when I was deciding on what colors to do, because I could have made it all kind of like a blackish color, and I think that would have worked, especially because this is a Decepticon. Not only is this supposed to be like kind of an evil, darker color scheme, but it's supposed to be inconspicuous, and I feel like this looks like a very nice, just luxury type car that kind of stands out a bit, but that's okay, you know, we're having fun, we're doing creative ideas. I think this looks really good, and I feel like if I had done it, like I said, with a black type color, it could have just blended and washed everything away, and I didn't really want to do that, so I'm glad it stands out the way it does. And then another little factor was, again, I was thinking of my mom's old Honda Accord that we had growing up, and how the seats were made out of this fake leather material that was very shiny and all that. So I was thinking like maybe I should give this a gloss coat just to give it that leather pleather vibe to it. But then I was like, you know what? The outside of the car is going to be very shiny from that gloss coat alone. Let's just make the inside flat coated just so it just has a little bit of contrast going on even further. And I think I made the right choice. It looks really good with this very flat, just dry color scheme for the inside. And then the outside just being super shiny and super glossy, very reflective. It's just working very well for me. So for the exterior of the car, I started by doing everything in a silver color. Just get it all that shiny metallic silver, because I want it to be very glossy and very shiny. That's how cars are. They just look very waxed and buffed, and they look very nice, especially you put them out in the sun. They have a gleam on them. You know how it is. You've seen a car before. So we started with the silver, and then basically I just did candy coating. So I went over everything else with a deep, dark, clear red. It wasn't a standard clear red. It was specifically like a deep clear red, so it was much darker. And I'm glad I went with that choice because that's more in line with Dead End's color scheme. He's not quite red. He's not purple. He's like a burgundy, like dark red. So I think it comes across perfectly here. Like I nailed it. That deep clear red worked perfectly for a Dead End color scheme, and I just can't get enough of it. Looks nice. It stands out amongst any car on its own just because it's not a very common color. When you look at this, you definitely see Dead End. I just masked off the parts of the car that then had that signature stripe that he has. I went with a metallic yellow. I wanted to make sure it was all in metallics just because, again, this is supposed to be a very shiny, glossy finish. I think it looks cool when cars have metallic stripes and stuff on them, so this worked out nicely. Because it was all just one solid piece of tape, that just made masking super easy. It's just one big old stripe. And then after we did the yellow, just honed it in a bit more, put in a little bit more masking just to make another smaller stripe on the inside. Made that one silver. I think it came out damn near perfect. There was a little bit of bleeding and stuff. I don't know what happened there. I think the tape just, for some reason in certain parts, just didn't want to stick as perfectly. I don't know. But I did have to do a little touching up. I will forgive it because it's not the most obvious, but it's still pretty darn annoying that we had to do that. And then lastly, I had some third-party decals I just picked up on, I think, eBay for the Decepticon logos, and I just took off one that I thought fit the best, put that on where I thought it should go. There you go, Bab's your uncle. Now, for some of the big gleaming issues on this model kit, it's the super glue. Having to glue all of this outer shell on top of everything after everything was painted, that caused a lot of issues, let me tell you. I mentioned before that the back and front bumpers, I don't feel like they were quite lined up properly or maybe just molded properly. I really had to force them into place with the glue. Why couldn't they just have pegs? Again, pegs and holes, works great. They could have definitely made that like clips or something, but no, they just straight up made it. We had to glue the pieces together. And it's not like you can just glue it together and then put the shell over everything. It's just not going to fit right. So you have to paint it first and then glue it together. I could have potentially put everything together first and then painted it, but that would have been another pain in itself. So I just tried to do things the best I could with what I had to work with. I feel like if I had another one of these and had a second go at it, I could definitely get it right this time. But it's just, you know, one of those things where it was the first time I was trying it out. You're going to mess up. It's going to happen. It's just unfortunate that I messed up in quite these large ways. I was showing pictures to my dad and he just straight up noticed like there's a lot of, I think he called it orange pitting. I think that's the word he used. Orange pitting, I think. There's lots of little specks of dirt and stuff in the texture of the vehicle. So I should have cleaned it up a little bit better. That's on me. I just wasn't paying attention and just didn't see that there was little bits and bobs everywhere. I should have gave it a one closer inspection and just rubbed everything down. But yeah, that's a big issue there is I got to make sure in the future when I'm painting stuff, there's always these little specks and things that you just sometimes don't notice. If you don't get them, they're going to stick out. And yeah, like I said, here we've got all these little bits and stuff. You look at the finish and there's just not the cleanest. And then one thing I forgot to point out was I did paint the windshield wipers. They were molded directly onto the red parts parts of the car, the front of the hood and everything. I am pretty happy with how that came out. I did mask everything off and then just painted them black. Not the biggest deal, but it does stand out. I mean, if they were red, you would notice and that would look bad. So I'm glad that I took the extra step to mask off that little bit there and just make it as realistic as possible. That little touch adds a lot of realism. So the biggest mistake that I made was gluing on the windshield to the outer frame of the car. I, again, wasn't paying attention and I put on way too much super glue around that rim. So when I clasped the pieces together, it just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, just like came out the sides and then just got all over that clear windshield. And if you get anything on a clear part, you're done. That part is screwed over. There's no cleaning it up. There's no getting it out. I tried to scrape off as much as possible and sand it all off. Part of it is the glue just eats away at the plastic itself. And then another part of it is, again, I had to sand it down just to get rid of the globs. And now we've got this rough texture that just blurs out the window. Yeah, definitely not great. It's something I'm going to need to keep an eye out for in the future and make sure we don't screw everything up because, yeah, that's the most egregious mistake here is that back windshield is just blurred out from all the sanding I had to do. So probably could have been a better way to fix it, but it is what it is. If I were to do this model kit over, I think I would have done a much better job. If I can get my hands on another one day, I would love to give this a second chance because, again, this was meant to be a gift for Bobby Skullface. I'm a big fan of his and the Nerd Rage Radio channel that he has with his friends Chris and Joey. Let's give some love to all of them as well. But yeah, like I said, there's just way too many mistakes. It just did not come out well at all. I just don't want this to be a representation of the work that I can do. So we're just going to call it here. I did send him pictures at the best angles, so he did give it some good love and appreciation. I made sure to keep the messed up parts out of it, so he only saw the best of it. If he were to see this in person, he's going to notice there's a lot of just terrible mistakes to be had. I'm just going to say it again. One last time before we go. Pegs and holes. Best way to do it. If you're going to make a model kit, have a peg, plug in the hole, get the freaking glue out of here. God damn it. But anyways, guys, this was a good learning experience. It's nice to do something different. It was fun to try out something that I had never done before. And like I said, maybe we'll do something again. I'm not the biggest car guy. I think I mentioned that before. We'll see what the future holds. And Bobby, Chris, and Joey over at Nerd Rage Radio. Thanks again for all the hard work you do for your channels. You do a great job. I love tuning in every week just to hear what there is to hear and see what's on your mind. It's nice to check in and just feel like I'm part of the conversation. So thanks again. Hopefully I'll be able to prepare something a little bit better in the future for you. I still want to be able to give you a nice little gift, just just a little bit of fun, just a little neighborly thing to do to say hi. But anyways, guys, until next time, we'll see you then. Peace.